How's it going, everybody? It's time to talk the guilds. And just when we thought it was only three, some bastards at the WGA decided to immediately swoop in and say, no, we're stealing your thunder. You need to cover us as well. So yeah, the main focus will be DGA, SAG and PGA. With
Right.
myself, MC Ashley, in the house, spelt DA. Along with Mixmaster AJ and Big Popper Owen. I don't know.
See, she's coming out here to scold you. No. No.
I couldn't remember the other members of the Sugar Hill gang.
If this is anybody's first time on this channel, I don't know what the fuck just happened either. So
neither do I, because I've just
this is all new.
Neither do I, because let's get to the breaking news. Basically, nothing that you want to be at the Oscars is going to be making it in at WGA.
Nope.
The bit I've got is from Yahoo Sports, but I think it's via Deadline. It went up about 3 hours ago.
Yep.
Anatomy of a Fall is ineligible. All of Us Strangers is ineligible. So is Zone of Interest, and so is Poor Things.
I've got more to that. Do you have the rest of it, or is that all you have?
Oh, that's interesting. In case it did somehow make it in, Origin apparently is also listed as original in WGA, but adapted for the Oscars. So it's not just Barbie that follows that trend. But yeah, so the other originals that have fallen by the wayside are Fallen Leaves, The Boy and the Heron, Teacher's Lounge, Memory, Fingernails, and 1001, which was the winner at Sundance from however many months back. And then in adapted, ineligible for WGA, A Taste of Things, Blackberry, there goes our hope with that, Society of the Snow, and both Ninja Turtles and Spider-Verse. So at this rate, Maestro's winning best screenplay, right?
So do they have Barbie and adapted then?
No.
Yeah,
it's original.
They have it in original. As ever, everybody is doing exactly the opposite of the Oscars.
So the Academy confirmed this Deadline article exactly the reason why we've been right all along, even though we didn't go with it, that Barbie's adapted, because due to, in part, to the existing Mattel toy line of characters.
Obviously.
No, that's their actual, that's the real reasoning. Like, the actual reason is the true reason.
So when they announce it tomorrow in adapted, because they usually say, what it's adapted from when they announce it. So I guess it'll be based on characters created by whoever originally designed Barbie in the 50s, probably. Because I don't think you can say Barbie's. Can you say characters owned by Mattel, even though they might not have designed it? But yeah. So
sure, that's all WG news we have.
WGA is truly all over the place, because with the list of what we've got there's a possibility that practically every single nominee at the Oscars might not even make it in WGA, depending how screenplay goes. which is always fun. Right, wow, there's a fair bit in the chat. Spencer says, I'm thinking Margot Robbie misses tomorrow, Sandra gets the double, and Saltburn overperforms. Are you guys doing personal awards again? I get more excited for them than the Oscars. It's the reason I checked out The Harder They Fall and loved it. Yes. It'll be coming.
I was telling Owen, hopefully at the beginning of next month. I don't want to do it too late.
Yeah.
It's my fault, and I won't deny that. I'll own that. I need to see Maestro. Once I see Maestro, I think I'll be okay to make my lineups. Because Zone of Interest is a guarantee for Friday. So when Maestro performs even decently tomorrow, if it overperforms, if it underperforms, as long as it's there, which it will be, I think that it hopefully will get rushed to theaters quick, at least for a short run. Unless I have to wait for the Oscar run when they do the Best Picture marathon. But that's still a couple months away. It's probably March if I had to guess.
Spencer.
Well, maybe not, because the show's actually on the 10th, so probably in the middle of February.
Spencer also says, great verses on Town versus Heat.
Oh my god, that's an old one.
Yeah, it is.
That was one of the first ones.
Spencer says, have you done a video yet on Copland?
Yes. It's a versus with Serpico, maybe?
That sounds right.
Sounds about right. Spencer also says, watch the Maltese Falcon, so good. Reminded me of Knives Out. I can kind of
That's
see
interesting
that.
idea.
Girl on the Train Defender here. Which one? That one from Asylum that basically made its cover look exactly like it was the girl on the train when it was nothing to do with the girl on the train, but it was also called the girl on the train?
Gee, I wonder which one.
Really enjoyed Close. AJ, any movie reviews coming out? The world is missing you in your reviews. It's in the works.
We're working on it.
Yeah, all the new stuff like Night Swim and the Beekeeper and stuff like that should all be in the next week or two, and then hopefully I'll catch up, and then by February we'll be doing them regularly.
Oh, more praise for the best stream that's ever been on this channel. I think Ashley and AJ need an award for that Globe's Twitter video because that was comedy gold.
I kind of wish I would have been able to be there for that, but I feel like the point that it was done on Twitter with just the two of you was exactly the reason why it was so good.
I wonder if the guy who made Bad Times at the El Royale has got any more movies in the pipeline. Yeah.
Drew Goddard, you mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm trying to think what projects he's got going. Because I vaguely remember him. Wow, he hasn't literally done anything since Bad Times at the El Royale. And that was 5 years ago.
Oh my god.
That's not even like television stuff.
No.
IMDb, save me. Okay, an Untitled Cloverfield sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's producer. Wraith of the Broken Land, where he's producer. And then a couple of TV series, one called High Potential, and one that's just listed as Untitled HPI Caitlin Olsen ABC Project. Although apparently he's working on the screenplay for Sinister Six as well. And Robopocalypse. And Project Hail Mary. Whatever that is. But nothing as director apparently, which is a shame.
Anytime a good writer is attached to a superhero or comic book script, I automatically assume that whatever they wrote is being pushed out for something more generic, but they'll get credited anyway. Is that usually the way it goes?
Sounds about right.
Also, Spencer says, Nayad isn't as bad as I thought. Jodie Foster's great. Annette is well okay. I'm trying to work out, is that well okay or well okay? It's like some weird sort of like super rad man. Oh god. Spencer says Lanthimos and Ari Aster should team up for a super fucked up film.
I'm okay as long as it's not A24.
I don't know if we could take that. Oh, it absolutely would be.
I know. Don't remind me.
So Spencer says, I love Zone of Interest more than Anatomy of a Fall. Anatomy as a 9.5, Zone with Interest was a 10.
Hey Spencer, right now you just gave me like elevated want to see the Zone of Interest right now because I love Anatomy of a Fall, and if you think it's better, I know it's preferential that your opinion versus mine, but I'm even more psyched about Friday now.
And then news that I only just found out as well.
Yep.
From Josie. Norman Jewison has passed at the age of 97.
Oh.
All that shortly before.
You want to talk about somebody that had a really interesting and eclectic filmography.
I mean, Josie has his favorite film of his, but like, if you look at that list of like, okay, Gailey's in the middle of it, but In the Heat of a Night, followed by Thomas Crown Affair, then after Gailey was Fiddler on the Roof, and then Jesus Christ Superstar and Rollerball. That's an eclectic 8 years in itself.
I mean, it's me we're talking about here. The only thing the best one that comes to mind for me would be the Hurricane.
Well, I've always thought that Fiddler on the Roof was a masterpiece.
It's great.
But the person in me whose favorite genre is like crime, In the Heat of the Night just really is a shining example of the genre that it's telling. And especially since I got that theatrical viewing a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like me and one other dude in there, but it didn't even matter. It's like that's actually... There's a couple of things that I've written that have a lot of inspiration from In the Heat of the Night in it. Especially the Foul on the Prowl scene, where Porte is out in the car, and the guy just starts playing that, and you can just hear it in the background like it's taunting him. And it's... And obviously that's... The slapping scene is legendary. So Will Smith wishes he was Sidney Poitier in that moment.
I also love the fact that, you know, nowadays we get anybody and everybody involved in producing and directing the Oscars. But in 1981, for the 53rd Academy Awards, they literally got Norman Jewison to direct it. So we had an Oscar-winning director directing the Oscars. Inception.
I feel like I'm forgetting like a major one.
One that always got to me was Bogus.
Really?
Yeah, I always enjoyed it. I don't know why. It's like Gerard Depardieu and Bogus.
I mean,
I remember that when I was a kid.
Moonstruck was well received in the mid to late 80s.
Moonstruck's definitely on that list.
And then obviously Cincinnati Kid, him and Steve McQueen gelling really well.
I'm not burying the lead here. One of my favorite things, this is kind of like Jewison adjacent, is the fact that they had the Muppets Tonight Show on ABC in the 90s. And one of the things was when Garth Brooks put out his Chris Gaines album. So everybody wanted Garth Brooks to sing country music. and they're like, okay, I'll sing. Okay, I'll finally sing. I'll finally sing a song. And he did If I Were a Rich Man. And it's one of the best things I think I've ever seen, to be quite honest with you. And of course, it ends with Garth doing We Shall Be Free, because obviously he did it at the end. But I mean, it was great. He's like, oh, you're gonna sing? And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna sing Fiddler on the Roof. Let's go. Very underrated show if you've ever heard of it. If you haven't and you're a Muppets fan, check it out.
Also, I'll just throw this out there for anybody that hasn't seen it, to kind of tease it a little bit. The first time I saw the Cincinnati Kid, the ending blew my fucking mind. For the kind of movie it is, and then the way it ends is just so like it. I think the best thing about it is how unexpectedly underwhelming it is, which makes it amazing. So I'll just throw that out there.
Josie saying that Emma Stone is in Ari Aster's next film. Emma just likes being with weird directors, apparently.
Yeah, she's becoming like the female Daniel Radcliffe right now.
There's that HBO series thing that she's in, like with that guy that does the weird stuff. That's like part dramatized, part real, or whatever it is. So. Never. Well, you say it's never won an Oscar. I think technically he would have got an Oscar for. Oh no, because he wouldn't produce on In the Heat of the Night, so he wouldn't have won that. Did Fiddler on the Roof win Best Picture in '71?
No, The French Connection beat it.
Right. So in that case, yes, he never actually got an Oscar. Damn it.
Yeah, because he lost to Mike Nichols for The Graduate when In Heat of the Night was up.
He got the Memorial Award in '99, so at least he, in that respect, he got something. Josie asks who's seen Bugsy Malone. Thoughts on it? Very good. Better than Mean Girls.
Hey, now, no bashing Mean Girls.
Is that the one where it's like an adult movie with an all kids cast, or is that something else? I actually have not seen it. I just know that concept.
Oh wow. one of Alan Parker's best. Especially when the scene when everybody gets quote unquote murdered just becomes a massive food fight. River of Dreams by Billy Joel was on the radio today. Says Josie. Yeah, Brian mentioning the Irving J. Thalberg Award. Spencer saying TOU should be nominated for actor as well as John Magaro. What was that for?
Past Lives.
Oh, right, both of them. The question is for me, what movies are going to be in the Oscar movie marathon for this season? I know the most likely 10 for Best Picture, but what else? It's annoying. I'm waiting for the one that's very weird, and I demand that you see it, which will probably be one of the short films or the short animated things. Whose fake book would you rather read? F by Thelonious Ellison / Stagger Lee in American Fiction, or The Day After Yesterday from Sideways, or Boner from Past Lives?
Well, if you read Erasure, you get to read fuck. So I have.
Also, which one would win in a literary prize? Day After Yesterday would probably be the one that wins. Because
Yeah, I can't remember if I can't remember if it was established.
Fuck would probably be too edgy.
I can't remember if it was ever fully established if Miles is a strong rider or not.
Not really.
Brian says one more question: what's going to be my bonus film that just gets in the tech category that could get in the Big 8? Trying to think. There's nothing. I mean, Napoleon's going to be big in the techs. The closest I can think is Spider-Verse. That's the only one that I think could fit into Big 8 and be in the techs. I don't think there's much else.
That's like we were talking about. If something's going to come into the Big 8 and be this totally shocking thing, it's going to have to come from way out. Because there's so much that's been established at this point of what's on the inside and the outside. It's going to have to come from the outside of outside in order to be surprising.
Especially as people like us. And people have been watching these videos since August. We've pretty much, like, whether we predicted it or not, almost everything has been mentioned at one point.
Yeah, I'm still, it's only been a few years, but I'm still, like, really waiting for the next Lakeith Stanfield. Like, that far out of nowhere.
Yeah, I could see that.
I would say The Worst Person in the World in original screenplay kind of did that.
Yeah.
Brian mentioning that animated features are usually ineligible for WGA. Yeah, that's actually fair. Now that I think about it. Speaking of Saltburn, Josie says some have compared it to Kind Hearts and Coronets. To me, have I seen it and thoughts on it? Kind Heart. The general sort of theme of Coronets is there, but it's Coronets is more of an Ealing sort of comedy that does have darkness to it than like the weird, like sinister nature. I guess this is, spoilers for Saltburn. The big reveal is at the end, whereas with Kind Hearts and Coronets, the reveal is pretty much established at the very start. So you can't really compare it that way.
And so there's something that I do feel like they have in common, but it's a massive spoiler to say what that is.
Yeah. It's sort of established from the start with Kind Hearts and Coronets that, the person is what they're doing. Their motive is shown from very early on, whereas with Saltburn it's held to the last 10-15 minutes ish.
Yeah, if that maybe closer to maybe the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That is one problem I had with Saltburn was that the whole sort of reveal was really rushed and like really last minute. Especially when we get to the passing of time and how that just happens very, very quickly.
Thoughts on Rollerball? It's what probably Running Man should have been, to some extent.
Yeah.
Running Man had that same sort of essence to it, but just went to off the beaten path, really. You can sense that Running Man felt sort of like the Rollerball sequel. and not that god awful remake that we got 20 years ago.
I think the great thing also is maybe I'm underestimating 70s audiences, but I feel like Rollerball was another one of those movies that was doing satire before mass audiences really knew what satire was. And that's like maybe the 70s crowd, but I get that vibe from it. I don't know what the hell McTiernan was doing.
Considering
Besides playing in theaters for 2 days.
considering what I've heard about what happened to him outside of Die Hard, probably he was doing drugs. That's all I'm saying. I think that's on the public record, isn't it, Your Honor?
I just love the fact that we can watch McTiernan's Rollerball, you know, if you really even want to do that, and say, like, the guy that made this went to prison, and that makes so much sense. He went to prison after this, by the way.
Bryce says a potential ice storm could be coming in tomorrow morning, so if the roads aren't safe, it's a good excuse to stay home for a bit and getting to watch the Oscar nominations live. I was shocked. I was watching the UK version of Jeopardy, and they were openly promoting, because the same channel has the rights to broadcast the Oscars in like 6 weeks. On their streaming service, they're actually going to have a special channel that doing film stuff and then themed around Oscars, I think for February into March. And they're also doing a live stream themselves of the nominations tomorrow. Stealing the content from YouTube. I love it. Yes. It's what I'm doing. I'm going to be in the corner and for second screen experience. Josie says favorite Alan Parker film. Woo, blimey.
He's got a great filmography, but I say Mississippi Burning pretty with ease.
Ooh. I kind of want to edge it to Midnight Express.
Yeah,
that's really good, but also I'm a big fan of Commitments as well. That was
the Wallace is too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That was some of the stuff they did in that was a bit weird. The best bit was the Gerald Scarf animation stuff. That's what I remember. And then, of course, Angela's Ashes is really, really good as well. Evita isn't fully my thing, but I also appreciate that as well. To both me and AJ, have either of us seen Hollywood Shuffle? Josie thinks it would pair well with American Fiction.
I saw it so long ago. I have it on a VHS here somewhere. But I don't even really remember much about it, except that I watched it like really late at night. But I remember it feeling like it's one of those movies that's kind of a series of events.
Mm-hmm.
But my memory's so vague. I was surprised when Criterion picked it up, because it seemed so random, but then all it does is make me want to go back to it and see how secretly brilliant it was when it was out and nobody realized it. Because Townsend's pretty has always kind of been groundbreaking in his own way. Is how Criterion ended up picking it up.
Parsnip says, does AJ go to the theatre for all the releases like Owen, or is he comfortable streaming? I think as much as you can, AJ. Yeah, I think as much as you can, you try and see in the screen, but if it's only there as a streaming option, you're not sort of like Owen, in which, I will not see it.
Sorry.
I
Also,
used to I I used to be almost totally anti-streaming, but then I think somewhere in the middle of COVID, my social anxiety kind of relapsed at some point.
That's
And it's
fair.
like if I can leave as little as possible, that's great. But yeah, like it's very taxing to walk because I don't carry a phone, so I don't do anything online. So I have to take my social anxiety up to the counter and say, "Hey, I need a ticket for this." And it's like that's enough work for one day as far as being out in public.
Fair.
Parsnip says, I argue that Mark Rylance was more out of left field than Lakeith Stanfield.
Well, Mark Rylance has only been nominated once, and um, I'm trying to figure out what this.
I wouldn't say that was out of left field. That was like one. That was the best performance in that film. Sorry, Tom.
I do think Bridge of Spies doesn't get enough credit. I think it's a great movie overall. Granted, I actually haven't seen it since the theater, but I remember I really liked it a lot.
Parsnip says Saltburn's more like an updated Brideshead Revisited meets Mr. Ripley film.
Yeah, there's a lot of Ripley in it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Ripley in it.
Josie says, speaking of Barry Keoghan and Ealing, I think Banshees years from now will be looked in the way that Ealing comedies are. I mean, there wasn't that much farce about Banshees of Inisherin, you know, when Barry goes, I'm going in the water, mate.
Yeah, I would say that's Banshees is more in line with just. It'll be interesting to see what McDonough's his filmography looks like at the end, and how he's going to kind of just be his own thing, in his own recognizable style, especially the repetitive dialogue that somehow works.
Baka Rakora is putting stuff in. Clearly, creative has nothing for him. You know what I mean, Baka. Parsnip mentions their favourite Jewison stuff being the Russians are coming. Along with the usual ones. Also, Send Me No Flowers and Justice for All and Agnes of God. And then Alan Parker, apart from the ones we've already mentioned, Angel Heart and Fame. And Parsnip, oh good, speaking of COVID, the ice melted and Parsnip's got some meds. And also regarding the Rylance and Stanfield, I thought you meant winner, not nominee. Would it help? I mean, damn it. It's the war wound! And also Bry says, Bry, in a typical Blizzard style response, especially with that Diablo Immortal stuff from years back, Bry's gone, AJ doesn't have a phone? You guys don't have phones?
I hate communicating with people. Why would I carry a phone?
Yeah.
It's my least favorite thing. I have a perfectly functional email for like 5 people, and that's about it. That's all I need.
I mean,
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
I don't have a smartphone. I've got this old Nokia from like 20-something years ago that still works. At least for now, until they turn off the 2G or 3G, in which case that phone is a brick. Then again, it's not.
It's also not just that I don't like being able to be contacted. It's also the whole addiction factor. Like I just really don't want to be one of these people that's literally everybody, where you never see their eyes anymore. They're just everybody's just constantly looking down 24 hours a day, and I just don't want to be that.
Parsnip, I think, I think this is past
Here,
that says
here.
I couldn't live with my phone. $1,600 and worth every penny.
Yes.
I'm guessing you mean I couldn't live without.
That's what it
Yeah.
sounds like.
Yeah,
He has
it's
a
like,
no brain. Okay, Ashley.
I'm just checking. Anyway, as I scroll through, so I can get to the point. We'll go in sort of order of the guild, as in we'll touch on the DGAs first,
Okay.
because they're the first to reveal their hand on February the 10th. Even though they were barely the first to reveal their nominations list. I think it was roughly the same day as SAG. And SAG's like 2 weeks after this, but whatever. So, in DGA, for documentary, we have Bobby Wine, the People's President, 20 Days in Mariupol, Beyond Utopia, Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, and Kokomo City. Interesting that Bobby Wine is in here, because I think that made BAFTAs, right, but didn't get recognised at Academy, or it didn't make the long list, I think.
I remember
no,
from BAFTA.
Bobby is in long list. I take it back. But it didn't make it in the BAFTA long list for documentary, but did make it in for first time. Okay. BAFTAs are being weird again. Thanks. Then the interesting one, because arguably there's two standout ones here, maybe three. For first time feature, we have Cord Jefferson for American Fiction, Manuela Martelli for Chile 76, Nora Nisani for Shader, A.V. Rockwell for 1001, and Celine Song for Past Lives.
Yeah, it's like we talked about with BAFTA. I don't know how to do this without just making it a prediction video. Because obviously the conversation immediately goes to, would they pick Jefferson or Song?
I vaguely remember people saying good stuff about 1001, though.
That was my outlier, if you want to talk about the dark horse.
Yeah, that's the one that sort of... I'm not sure about the other two.
Who was it that ended up beating Bradley Cooper for this in 2018?
Bo Burnham. For 8th grade.
Yeah, where it seemed like it was made to be handed to Cooper, and then they didn't. They just didn't.
Considering one of Bo Burnham's big songs is KYS, I think that's what I have to say in order for us to not get demonetized. Or maybe that Welcome to the Internet one that was pretty interesting. And then for the main five, we have Greta Gerwig for Barbie, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Alexander Payne for The Holdovers, and Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon. Which I can't object to, because there's about 7 or 8 directors that probably should be in. It depends which guild and which body that's voting goes in at the same time. So
I think my biggest reservations with my predictions at this point all hang out with the holdovers. Not being able to fit Payne in, and not being able to do the AJ thing and run holdovers for editing, I feel are going to be like severely biting me in the behind tomorrow.
I feel like this is the one where when it gets here tomorrow and the announcement gets here, I'm gonna be screaming, just tell me who the fuck it is. Just end the suffering and tell us who the actual director lineup is. I am still looking forward to the annual DGA panel discussion that goes for like 3 hours, and it's just an interview with the 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice if Scorsese was there this time. He was there by way of like Zoom in 2019, and he wasn't there the whole time. So it would be great if he was actually there the whole time.
Josie mentioning I saw somebody use a flip phone and how to blow up a pipeline. Oh, question for me: as somebody from the UK, favourite British documentary? Oh, I know I've already said it in response to your question of favourite disaster thing, but I still think Touching the Void and the way that was done was really top notch. Um, and I guess technically the Asif Capaldi stuff. So Amy and Diego Maradona and Senna, mainly because it's got a lot of people interested in things that they weren't interested in, which shows you how good the direction is. Which is why the more and more I look at that Amy biopic trailer that went up online a month or two back, it looks cringeworthy. Parsnip's doing predictions, I guess, for DGAs, saying that the Michael Jakes Fox film is their choice for documentary. Celine's Song for Past Lives is the first time feature, and then Last of Us Bear. TV. I'm guessing that's TV movie and limited series because Parsnip thinks Daisy Jones and the Six is going to win. And then Last Week Tonight, because of course it is. And in general, director Christopher Nolan, Parsnip's going with. No doubt we'll get them again in about 3 weeks when we do the predictions. Anyway, Josie thinks that in relation to the DGA to Oscar, Josie thinks that it'll be 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 making it in the Oscar list. So it will not match.
I think it seems like all season long, there's 4 that seem locked, whether they are or not. And then there's always one that's kind of like, it could be anything. Or 2 that seem locked, or everything is all up in the air, just like AJ said last night, until we get our official announcements. We're just playing one big guessing game based upon facts that may or may not be true. We're all going to sit and watch the ceremony, whether live or in archive, and be like, oh, yeah, that made sense. Yeah, we said that before. That's probably doesn't make sense, but I understand why it's there. I mean, like I said, it's a crapshoot. That's all it is. And it's just going to be nice to finally be over tomorrow when we actually have this conversation this time tomorrow night.
Yeah, I do. I am definitely feeling it's not going to be these 5. I'm almost leaning towards 3 out of 5 rather than 4 out of 5. But who the hell knows? My main takeaway is just that Payne is not fucking around.
Payne, editing, 2 supporting nominations, something below the line, and picture. I mean, it writes itself.
Giamatti.
Yeah, because Giamatti's the one that, I mean, they've got 2 almost certified, guaranteed, like at least second place and first place at this point. Some might say Giamatti's in the lead right now. But either way, he's still in the not contention, but he's in for the win conversation right now. And no one's stopping Randolph. I mean, if it would have happened, it probably would have happened by now.
Yeah, she just won another critic award today, so
Not nearly surprising.
Oh, Parsnip saying my bad. I
And if
thought you were
Sessa gets
predicting.
in, like, you're off.
Don't worry, Parsnip. In your COVIDed state, we'll forgive you misconstruing the title saying nomination discussion. That's all right. Bry saying I'm regretting taking Bobby Wine out of my documentary predictions now. And then Josie asks, what would a stoner noir comedy by Christopher Nolan be like? I mean, to some extent, wasn't that following? Because part of it did feel like a drug trip. And it was black and white, so it's literally noir. So
I would like to see a black and white Fear and Loathing style movie by Nolan.
that's an odd choice.
That would be my idea for the answer. Like maybe kind of like by way of like the black and white done like in Natural Born Killers. I'd like to see that.
And Bry also mentions the last time DGA did get only 3 out of 5 compared to the Oscars was 2018. So it's been 5 years.
That's fucked up. This is the second time now we've had to point out that 2018 was 5 years ago.
Well, of course, we're obviously the ceremony would have been 2019, so it sounds like it's actually 6 years, but we have to clarify this is all 2023 stuff we're talking about, even though it's all for 2023 awards, but the awards were all in 2024, so it doesn't make sense. That's why the Emmys made sense until they had to move because of strikes and everything. So next we'll move into PGA, just because it's the quicker one to get through, because there's only 3 categories at least of note to us that we'll be paying attention to. First up, in documentary, which was revealed all the way back in mid-December. We had 20 Days of Mariupol, American Symphony, Beyond Utopia, The Disappearance of Sherahite, The Mother of All Lies, Smoke Sauna Sisterhood, and Squaring the Circle, the story of Hypnosis. See, Smoke Sauna Sisterhood sounds like something that would probably make it in short in our things just because it's got that title. It's the old chestnut of go with the one that's got the weird title. I still remember back to last year when what's his name? Riz Ahmed had to say my year of dicks. I
think it was the pause before and after that really sold it.
Yes. But yeah,
as someone who actually watched that theatrically.
Like you could actually hear in his voice that he had to psych himself up just to say it publicly.
The usual suspects, of course, in there. Then with animated feature film, we've got Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Spider-Man, the Mario movie, and the Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Which I'd say is a fair list. Maybe Elemental could be, removed with something else, but there's nothing there that I'd say is outwardly atrocious.
I mean, as far as Mario being here, I guess we did have that conversation about how, for some reason, PGA tends to stick to like only mainstream animated movies most of the time. It feels like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Boy and the Heron wasn't so acclaimed, I have a feeling it probably would have been 5 straight. Everybody knows this animated movies, but Boy and the Heron's here to fight, and it's not getting anywhere.
And not to mention
away anytime
Not to
soon.
mention the boy in the Not to mention the boy in the heron got a very uncharacteristic wide release.
That is true.
Sometimes I'm wondering now, even if it's just this year, having Del Toro out to present animated, let's say at the Oscars, because of how passionate he is about animations, seems like a good choice. Especially if it goes to something like Boy and the Heron, because I don't think Miyazaki purposefully goes, no, we're making a kids' film, we're doing it animated, like most of the other stuff in the category is, and usually is on a year by year basis. And then we probably won't talk much about the 10 features for the PGA, because we practically all, no, we did all predict the same list. That being an American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Meister, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest.
I'm actually getting kind of scared. Because I'm really afraid. I'm getting really afraid that if we do the usual thing where it's not going to be these 10, there's going to be at least one difference. I'm really afraid that Past Lives is the vulnerable one. And I really hope that's not. I would rather just it be this 10.
Weirdly enough, before the guilds came out and shook everything up, I would have said Killers might have been vulnerable, but not now.
It's weird how many hits Killers feels like it's taking, but also it's like not going down necessarily.
Same
Like
thing about
still,
Past Lives.
yeah, like those hits that Killers took at BAFTA still managed to get into that 5-slot picture lineup.
Right.
But it's also like we were saying, as much as we build up the guilds all year, there's stuff that hits the guilds perfectly and still gets some wild misses.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of my personal movies I was really holding on to was Tick Tick Boom.
Yes.
And Tick Tick Boom looked so strong when the guilds happened, and then just, well, was it Garfield and editing, and that was it?
I am very happy that I was able to go to that Netflix cinema in California to see that movie in a theater, because it felt like the type of movie you needed to see theatrically to appreciate even more. Because I saw that and The Lost Daughter and Power of the Dog in the same day with Troy, and that was just an awesome theatrical experience with food and just both of us, two friends, watching 3 movies. It was just like exactly it's supposed to be. It reminded me, AJ, of back in the day. Honestly, it really did. We're the only ones in the theater and watching the things.
And it was really just one of those things where it was like, I mean, I talked about this at length when it was actually out, but
yes,
I know people talk about this happening with movies all the time, but I feel like it's actually kind of rare that it happens to me. But Tick Tick Boom was a movie where it really felt like the movie was looking directly at me and speaking directly to me.
yep.
And that's a really special movie. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad Jonathan Larson existed, and I'm so glad Lin-Manuel Miranda made that movie. And Garfield is Garfield. It's, yeah.
Don't worry. Sooner rather than later, we're going to be talking all about Jonathan Larson on this network, just like nature intended. One more time.
Yeah, at some point.
For a minute, I thought you were going to say we're going to be talking about Garfield, and then I got triggered to Chris Pratt playing every character ever existed. I feel we're going to have like a Being John Malkovich sequel, except it's being Chris Pratt because he's just in everything and he's going to play everybody.
That sounds like an SNL sketch It got rejected.
Yeah, I don't want that. I don't.
Don't. AJ said it last night, and I'll say it again. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Josie asks, who would we have lead the Nolan Stoner comedy? Cillian Murphy or somebody else? Ooh.
I want someone that needs a rejuvenation of their career. Because this could possibly be something with Nolan, so it's possible this could be something to get awards buzz, and this could boost someone's career that's really stagnated. I have someone in mind immediately, but it's probably nobody anybody's going to think of.
Andy Serkis.
Jason Lee.
Yeah.
Jason Lee badly needs work. He's doing cons, for God's sakes. Come on, justice for Jason Lee.
I'd like to see Andy Serkis doing good stuff as well.
Well, out of the two of them, Andy Serkis probably has a better chance, sadly. But
the way he portrayed Ian Jury in Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll was really exceptional. He's very Catherine Hunter-esque in that there's method to his madness / her madness.
maybe Carrie. He's getting older in age, but I think him in a Nolan stoner comedy might be really interesting. I mean, he does kind of look like Nick now in his 60s, but still.
Wasn't Carrie supposed to star in his Howard Hughes movie that never happened, or was that a different director? That was Nolan, wasn't it?
I think it was. That sounds familiar, vaguely.
I can't remember if the Aviator's existence derailed that, or if it was an idea that came after.
I don't recall. It's been so long.
I feel like we didn't get many details on it, so.
Brian mentioning PGA always nominated Illumination every year for animated, and it's rare for indies to make it in, so the fact that Boy and Heron still made it in is a surprise, along with the fact that Migration didn't.
I've been sitting on the fence about Migration for the longest time, since watching all these animated movies theatrically has served me oh so well lately, including one movie that everyone knows is the reason I didn't see Past Lives theatrically. That being said, Migration is something that I had a chance to see a free showing of, that I could have gone to, and I was there for, but I didn't. Still haven't watched it yet. I don't care. And it doesn't look like it's going to matter, so it's probably something I'm not going to watch. But I've heard decent things about it from what people say, but it's a family film. I mean.
Plus, aren't we getting Despicable Me 4 like this year anyway?
I believe so, yes.
So.
This is the first I've heard about that.
So
I don't really care either way, but.
So to promote Migration, there is this huge duck that is peeking out over the water lagoon in the park. And I did my park walk months ago, and I remember walking around, and I turned the corner, and then all of a sudden, I see this pair of eyes staring at me. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And I get closer, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the thing from Migration. All right, fine. Is it a photo op? Sure. But I forgot about it the next day, and sure enough, it scared the crap out of me. So it's like, it was just a weird thing to be doing just to promote the movie. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up for no reason, because there's really not much to say on this show. So that's what we're going to say, just random stuff tonight.
Yeah, supposedly Despicable Me 4 showing up some point 4th of July weekend. Parsnip says, I hate how when I look at a certain year of Oscars like 2000, I get the years wrong because people call it by the wrong year. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 2023 Oscars in March of 2024.
Yeah, it also makes like trivia games a bitch, because people do their research the wrong way. So it's like they'll say what won Best Picture in 2005, and you say Crash, and it's like, no, it was Million Dollar Baby, and it's like, don't fucking do it that way.
That isn't how the Academy does it. So you, sir, are wrong, Question Master. Therefore, I am the Question Master. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I've marked myself the winner.
It's like the whole thing in Quiz Show, where the big question, where the game is fixed, is what won Best Picture for? I think they said 1954 because the answer was On the Waterfront, but then the fixed wrong answer was Marty, which was the following year. So it's like somebody could believably make that mistake anyway, even if it wasn't a fixed game.
For sure.
Josie mentioning the sizing spring sauna sisterhood, because it's another thing from a SpongeBob episode. Of course it is. Also mentioning that Celine Song and Greta Lee seem so sweet. Bryce, I'm wondering if the Academy are going to nominate Lord and Miller, with everything hanging over them. I mean, we'll see.
I still don't know how much this stuff factors in. Like, James Franco makes sense, because that was really, really high profile.
Yeah. Sadly.
But like this other stuff, I can't imagine it factors that much.
Considering how many video games have gone through, I'd say the equivalent of what Lord and Miller did, as in crunch, as in a lot is done within the last few months with barely any sleep and whatever, and people still praise the games when they come out, even though they were done under questionable labour circumstances. That's how sort of similar. It's similar to what Lord and Miller, I guess, are accused of, to some extent. So to me, it's sort of semi-normalised, because that's just the way it's apparently seen as being a good thing, even though it probably isn't. Leads to a lot of burnout, but which doesn't help animation teams and production people anyway. Case in point, the ongoing battle between VFX artists and everything, and Disney, which is why a lot of the CGI in Disney things over the last couple of years has looked very lackluster. Parsnip says, I watched 2012's True Grit again today. Do you remember that Oscar season fondly?
Yeah, it was 2010, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Parsnip says 2010 underneath. Sorry. Well, yeah, because that
was when I cursed the Social Network.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Because it was like the Social Network got every fucking thing under the sun, and I was like, "What's the big deal? I don't even care for the movie." And then after I started going back to the Social Network over and over and over again, and when I finally fell in love with it, it's still in my top 3 movies of that decade.
Sure.
I love that movie so much. I'll just watch clips randomly when I get an itch to. And at least once a year, I'll go back to the whole movie. And then right around the time I fell in love with the Social Network is when the King's Speech started to take over.
Yep.
Yeah, I was really just. Are we talking about the 2010 season just kind of in general also, is what he said?
Mm.
Yeah, that was when I was loving the Bale sweep. That's one of those sweeps. That was one of those sweeps I could get behind, even though I think Jeffrey Rush took BAFTA. Still. And honestly, at the end of the day, The King's Speech is a movie that I do really like.
Same.
Obviously I would have taken the Social Network over it easily. But The King's Speech is really good by itself. And that was back when I was really pulling for Inception.
Yep.
When Nolan fanboyism was reaching a certain peak. For everyone, for a lot of people. And looking back on it, like, I remember being psyched when Wally Pfister won for cinematography. And now looking back, it's kind of shocking to me that like Deacons didn't win for True Grit or whatever else was even there. But yeah, I remember being put off by the King's Speech coming in at the last minute, but that was because I had fallen in love with The Social Network quite recently, and the King's Speech getting screenplay when it was like, oh, can Nolan actually win something and stuff like that. Um, the problem with Inception now, and I think I've mentioned this before, is that once you understand Inception, the entire first hour is something you just want to skip over. You want to basically skip to when they're inside Cillian Murphy's head and go from there. Because you're like, yeah, I get the explanations now. Because there's not a lot of flair to those exposition scenes, which is what we've always said is one of Nolan's big problems. And you can really see that in Inception these days. I still love that everything in Inception once they're in Cillian Murphy's head, but the whole hour of exposition beforehand is skippable anymore. Plus, 127 Hours was that year. I still really love that movie too.
Same.
That's a good lineup. A good lineup that the town didn't even make. The town like barely slipped out, and Winter's Bone took that 10th slot. But Winter's Bone is a movie that really grew on me also. At first it just felt like I don't know what exactly it felt like, but it felt like the breakout indie movie when indie movies were kind of annoyingly indie, if that makes sense. But Winter's Bone definitely has grown on me over time. So that's a lineup that's aging pretty well for the most part. I think the Kids Are All Right is in there also, which I haven't watched since that season, but I'm assuming it's still fine. I'm also still assuming that Julianne Moore is better than Benning, which we all knew at the time, despite Benning getting all the accolades.
Parson says, I'm shocked that anyone nominated or thought Wish was good. And then adding, I guess from out of nowhere, the rumour that Wish was created by ChatGPT. I doubt it.
It's
ChatGPT can sometimes do good stuff.
it's actually pretty ironic how many accusations are flying around about people writing with AI now, because that's such a lazy way to just say a movie's lazily written. So it's like
I mean, you can tell what it was. It's in Disney Centenary year. It's called Wish, and everything about Disney is based on When You Wish Upon a Star. They tried to make the most conservative, middling Disney film they could. That's basically just about the spirit of When You Wish Upon a Star.
yeah, it's like
ChatGPT might have had a drug trip in it.
it's easy to say that because we have, like AI writing stuff now or whatever, but it's like, when has lazy writing not been around? It's,
Case in point,
so
point, the Razzies.
and even if they did, I feel like even if something is written with AI, there's still going to be a human or two that would have to tweak it in some way. So I don't really buy anybody that says that exactly. I just think it's the kind of lazy writing that's always been around.
Yeah. When I look at the fact that in screenplay you've got at least at the Razzies for worst screenplay of the year, you've got Exorcist Believer, Expendables 4, Indiana Jones 5, Shazam Fury of the Gods, and Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. Yeah, that's proof that you don't need Chat GPT to make bad scripts. I doubt any of them were. Parsnip also mentions I love Chicken Run, the original one. I haven't seen the sequel, but I think I'll like it. Yeah, I think if you're into the first one, you'll probably enjoy the second one. I don't know how it feels for somebody that comes in and just sees it fresh. They probably won't get some of the references. Then again, half the voice cast is different. Parsnip also says his quiz show on Blu-ray. And if not, why isn't it in the Criterion collection already?
I don't know. I just have a DVD. I haven't seen a Blu-ray for it, but I don't know if one actually exists or not.
I'm trying to think. Quiz show was Miramax, right? I think. In which case, it probably falls into the Dogma trap.
Yeah, Parsnip, according to Amazon, you can get Quiz Show on DVD and VHS.
Okay, so it's Hollywood Pictures. And distributed by Buena Vista, so...
That's Disney.
Sort of. Well, Miramax, of course, was Disney around the same time, so...
Also correct.
Parsnip also says, I was a bit disturbed by rewatching 2 Grit. I loved it, but there seemed to be some weird underage thing between Steinfeld and Damon's characters. I don't remember if it was commented on at the time.
Yeah, I think he's just. It's weird that he's supposed to be creepy at the start, but as the character has like I think the scene where they go to the cabin and he like bites his tongue off is the character getting extremely humbled because the whole character feels completely different after that moment. Because he has the moment where he says, "I was going to steal a kiss while you were sleeping" or something like that, and then there's the scene where he's whipping her. But then if I remember correctly, that's about it. Every other time he's just a douchebag rather than creepy like he started off.
Could be worse. It could be. I just saw a review from Calvin Dyson, one of the Bond reviewers that I follow, talking about entrapment with, late 20 something Catherine Zeta Jones and 70-year-old Sean Connery.
I never got the appeal of that movie anyway, so yeah. But the fact that LaBeef has that arc where he starts off like creepy and kind of weirdly predatory, and then by the end, by like that moment when he's leaving, and it's like this genuinely sad moment where she doesn't want him to leave, I feel like is really like, I don't know why the creepy stuff is in there, but it does. It's interesting to see how big of an arc those two characters had, especially him and the way he changes and kind of after he gets humbled. You can tell I've kind of watched it recently, can't you? It was within the last year I rewatched it actually, I think.
Parsnip also says Disney sucks about releasing movies on Blu-ray often. There's so many live-action releases that have never actually come out. At least, in an HD form rather than just a regular DVD. Especially with Touchstone stuff. That's fair. Josie says Emma Stone says she applies to be part of Jeopardy every year. What other acting people would you like to see on Jeopardy from this year's list? I'm trying to think. Giamatti would be interesting.
I was gonna say, I feel like Jeffrey Wright knows a lot of things. I don't know if it's the glasses or the very distinguished way about him, but I was like, I just feel like he knows a lot of things.
I'm only going with Giamatti because we know how much of his family was involved in teaching. So it probably got burnt. It probably got told into him as a kid, learn, because we have teachers. Bryce saying with me not liking Despicable Me 3, and if I don't like 4, it will be going into the franchise fatigues like Ice Age, and Trolls and Hotel Transylvania. And then adding, although I really liked King's Speech, but I remember I felt bored watching Social Network. I always feel that film's conflicting because of how long it is, but of then how quick the dialogue is. It feels like you have a 90-minute worth of dialogue that's somehow said fast, but somehow then also dragged out into a 2.5 hour film.
Yeah, it is. It's actually only 2 hours, and I
Okay.
think that I think the thing about it is like the first time you watch it, or even the second or third time you watch it, you can get really burnt out. Like the scene that really stands out, where I can't believe I didn't even notice the power of it, was when they're talking about the shares getting diluted down. And it's like, how much was Mr. Parker's diluted down? It wasn't. How much was, Mr. Zuckerberg's? It wasn't. All the others, Dustin Moskowitz, it wasn't. And then how much was yours? And when he says 0.03, that's a holy fucking shit. But it's like the first few times I saw it, it's like that dialogue didn't even register what they were talking about. When it's such a holy shit moment when you when you see the whole build up to it. And so yeah, you know what probably helps is watching Sorkin movies with subtitles. Probably helps. Especially the amazing scene when they're at the club and he and Timberlake literally have to yell to talk to each other the whole time. I feel it used to be like it just felt like this sort of endless series of talking, but now when I watch the movie, every single scene feels like a masterpiece in itself, and I can't get enough of it.
Josie says, speaking of Emma Stone and True Grit, gotta love the line in Superbad. I'm sorry that the Coen brothers didn't direct my porn. And adding that Jeffrey Wright would be a good Jeopardy host. Probably more emotion than Ken Jennings.
I don't know. I'm perfectly okay with Ken Jennings.
Maybe
It
we're
just
spoiled over here because we get Stephen Fry, who's like actually not probably just as knowledgeable as Ken Jennings. And also, Parsnip says, don't forget what Bryce said about the King's Speech being announced as Harvey Weinstein's King's Speech. Because I enjoy the shade. So eventually we might get to SAG. The main stuff.
that's the thing is we pretty much discussed SAG when we did our prediction video. I guess the question is if we're going through TV much.
Yeah, I'll briefly mention some of the TV stuff. So in stunt ensemble we have Ahsoka, Barry, Beef, Last of Us, and Mandalorian. For the miniseries stuff, for best actor we have Matt Bomer for Fellow Travelers, John Hamm for Fargo, David Oyelowo for Lawman, Bass Reeves. Last chance I get to say that. Tony Shalhoub for Mr. Monk's Last Case, and Stephen Yun for The Beef. And then for actress, we have Uzo Aduba for Painkiller, Catherine Hahn for Tiny Beautiful Things, Brie Larson for Lessons in Chemistry, Belle Powley for A Small Light, and Ali Wong for The Beef. And then the interesting ones, because they actually have ensembles, because apparently ensembles don't exist for miniseries or TV films. Or something. In comedy, for actor, we have Brett Goldstein for Ted Lasso, Bill Hader for Barry, Evan Ross Baccarat for The Bear, Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso, and Jeremy Allen White for The Bear. Nice to see Goldstein actually getting some recognition here, when hasn't in any of the other award ceremonies, even the Emmys. And then in actress, we've got Alex Borstein for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Rachel Brosnahan for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel as well, Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary, Ayo Edebiri for The Bear, and Hannah Waddingham for Ted Lasso, with Abbott Elementary, Barry the Bear, Only Murders in the Building, and Ted Lasso making it for ensemble. Of course, the one that stands out there is Only Murders in the Building, because it didn't even get a nod in actor or actress. But there you go. And then on the drama side, for Best Actor, we have Brian Cox for Succession, which I would complain about, but because this also would include supporting actor, I have less to complain about, because yes, that's a supporting role. Billy Crudup for The Morning Show, Kieran Culkin for Succession, Matthew McFadden for Succession, and Pedro Pascal for The Last of Us, which should be fun. And then on actress, we have Jennifer Aniston for Morning Show, Elizabeth Debicki for The Crown, Bella Ramsey for The Last of Us, Kerry Russell for The Diplomat, and Sarah Snook for Succession. And then with cast, we have The Crown, The Gilded Age, another one that's like, well, why isn't it in the acting nods? The Last of Us, Morning Show, and Succession. So then into...
It's funny.
Oh, go ahead.
It's funny when you see the actors that have been submitted as the ensemble, and The Gilded Age is like the size of a paragraph, and The Last of Us is just Pascal and Ramsey.
Yeah, even though, you know, Murray Bartlett was at least in one episode, and Storm Reed, I think, was in one. Like, there were more people in it than just them two. It's just are they the only ones that are SAG members?
I guess it's like that time Key and Peele were nominated.
Yeah. So, to the film stuff. For stunts, we have Barbie. I'm trying to think of... There weren't that many obvious stunts I can think of in that.
I mean, unless it's the Ken battle, that's
how it comes to mind.
That's the only thing that fits, because, like, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has obvious ideas. Indiana Jones has obvious ideas. John Wick has very obvious ideas. And Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 has a train. Has bad CGI, but they legit just went, we've got an old train, let's chuck it off a bridge. Then to the big ones. So for supporting actress, we have Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks for Colour Purple, Penelope Cruz for Ferrari, Jodie Foster for Nyad, and Dave Vaughn joined Brandolph for The Holdovers. I briefly remember you wanted to talk about Colour Purple, even though you said that we feel like we've covered a lot of what happened. Even though this is the only place to bring it up, really. Oh, I guess it's in ensemble, but...
Yeah, I think I ended up accidentally covering everything I wanted to say yesterday. The only thing I was going to point out here was it's interesting to see who is selected as far as who the ensemble is, because it's very interesting. Like Kiara or Ciara or whatever her name is in like the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's here, but David Alan Grier is weirdly missing. His character has an entire arc.
Yep.
And for some reason, he is not here. So I'm curious why that is. I'm also curious when it comes to, like, Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, like, how it's decided who is here, because I feel like there were quite a few people in Oppenheimer that have more time than Branagh and Rami Malek, and Casey Affleck. Really, Casey Affleck has that one scene.
There is no mention of Cara Jade Myers and Killers ensemble.
Yeah, I suppose Killers makes a little more sense because it's like, you know, if you have to be a member of SAG or something, there's probably a lot of the Osage cast was like,
yeah,
recruited like then and there. Kind of like how the poster for Crash is Michael Pena, and Michael Pena was like the only one not on the cast list when they won ensemble. But yeah, I'm really curious how it was decided who was part of the Oppenheimer ensemble. I said Rami Malek has like a couple of scenes, but only just the one big scene. Casey Affleck definitely only has one scene. You know who is absolutely missing from Oppenheimer is Jason Clarke.
Yep.
And Benny Safdie.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild to me that they're not here, unless it's like some kind of SAG rule thing that I don't know. But I would think Jason Clarke has been around long enough that he wouldn't have a problem. but I don't know what the rules are. But yeah, it's Jason Clarke and Benny Safdie especially are big standouts in that movie, and it's weird that they're not listed.
Then in supporting actor, we have Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Willem Dafoe for Poor Things, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, and Ryan Gosling for Barbie.
It's a good lineup, but it does feel like there was like a ballot, and it's just like I'm just gonna go with the people at the top, is what it looks like.
Do we need what was American Fiction the other film that we need to talk about?
Yeah, we haven't really talked about American Fiction, have we?
Mini review.
I love American Fiction.
Same.
The one thing that I kind of thought was gonna let me down was how hyped I was about the fact that in Erasure, the book it's based on, we have the entire novel that he wrote. And I was curious how they were going to do that. That's cut down to just one scene. It's him writing one scene that we see play out in front of him, and then everything else is just suggested. So I kind of thought they'd do more with that, but honestly, looking at the movie as a whole, it doesn't bug me that that's how they did it. Because I guess I kind of thought it would be more like visually creative to focus more on that, but the movie's telling such a great story as it is, focusing on like the family aspect and just the sort of torture that Monk is going through this system, trying to sell a book, and it's not the book that he wants to be selling. And the fact that it is so funny, because I was saying how the book is practically depressing, but you can see where the dark comedy in it is. But the way that the movie has those elements, but it uses them in such a way where even the really dark stuff is hilarious. And the way they talk about how black people are treated in the media or portrayed in the media, where we have like there's just stuff in the background, like when Monk's just sitting in his room and it says, and here we're devoting a month to black movies and black stories, and it's footage of like slavery movies and Morris Chestnut getting shot in Boys in the Hood, and it's like this, all those points that Monk's making throughout it, and they'll just put jokes in the background like that. And as dark as it is and depressing as it is, the way they execute it is so funny.
Yeah, definitely.
It's probably one of the, I would say it's there with like Dungeons and Dragons as far as pointing out a funniest movie of the year. Not just a best comedy, but the funniest movie. And those dramatic beats when they come, they're really potent also. There's the whole stuff with his mom, obviously, and then the way Sterling K. Brown was really able to make the brother character a lot more than what he is in. Like I'm pretty sure in the book he never shows up. He's only on the phone with Monk occasionally. And to bring him in and make him like a full character in the way that they do, where he's a hilarious character, but when his dramatic beats hit, they're like kind of some of the crowning dramatic moments of the movie, really. His delivery of "This family will break your heart" says everything about basically every character in the movie, with one line that Sterling K. Brown says. And there's stuff that's so unexpectedly funny too. Like there's lines or moments that just sneak up on you, and it takes a minute for them to set in before you realize how funny they were. I was talking about one particular moment with John Ortiz during a phone call. It's just it's like a throwaway moment, but with the context that we know, because it's a callback to something we learned like an hour ago. and then when it comes back, it's like, oh, we know that about this character, so now it's hilarious because we know that. And the way they portray the industry, like Michael Cyril Creighton, who is like, anytime he's in a movie, even if it's one scene, you can tell it's going to be fantastic. He's in like Spotlight and The Post and Only Murders in the Building and stuff like that. And like every time he shows up, it's like it's going to be in some kind of quality movie. It feels like, and the way he describes like Michael B. Jordan. Um, and I said the fact that the movie gets funnier and funnier as it goes, like when typically, and it's funny because there's so much drama in it because we've talked about the problem with comedies now is that they start off funny and then they want to be dramas. And it's like this is a movie that never forgets its serious moments, but it gets funnier as it goes. And it's like I don't know if it's just because you get more settled into it as it goes, or if just the comedy moments get funnier as it goes, or whatever it may be. But whatever it is really working in its favor. And just any of the Adam Brody scenes are just perfect, just perfect comedic moments. Um, I can't say enough good things about American Fiction. What do you got, Owen?
I just sit back and watch you do a review like it's old times. Not nearly as much as that. I really, really enjoy this movie. Seen it twice now. Had 2 full theaters both times. First time, I didn't really know what to expect. Had a little bit of like an inkling what was going on, but the second time I knew exactly what I was about to expect, and I just wanted to see the reactions of everyone. It was interesting to see what everybody reacted well to, like the announcement of what the title of the book was going to be. I mean, it's kind of a throwaway joke if you know, but it's done so well, and they just ran with it. It was great.
It's also the way Jeffrey Wright says it that first time.
Yes.
It's just the perfect delivery.
I love Sterling K. Brown in this movie greatly. And he's got some dialogue pieces that were absolutely like rolling on the floor, literally funny. And if he gets in tomorrow, I hope he does. But if he doesn't get in tomorrow, he still deserves to be in this lineup, regardless, because he is just a standout of the movie. Just like I said about Ruffalo and Poor Things, it's like these are 2 supporting performances I really enjoy that I hope that gets their just desserts when it comes to the end of the season. I mean, there's a lot of really great stuff here. Like the delivery's great. It's written really well. Cord Jefferson knew exactly what they were doing when they wrote this, and the directing is just spot on. It's great. It's dark. It's funny. It's satire. It's drama. It's a little bit of everything. And honestly, it's the crowd pleaser that people thought it was going to be when they were watching the trailers all the times for it. It always constantly got the biggest reaction when I'd see a trailer for it. And I'm like, I'm getting some trailers. I'm like, I'm tired of this. I'm done with it. I'm looking at you, Eddie the Eagle. The thing is, at the end, if you know, you know. At the end of the day, I saw the American Fiction trailer so many times, but when I saw the trailer, I would get more and more hyped for being able to finally see the movie. And then when I finally saw the credit, American Fiction pop up on my screen, I was like, yes, I'm finally here. I'm finally about to experience this. And I was in for the ride the whole time. I think it's fantastic. Anything it gets is very much deserved. And I hope it does quite well, no matter if I predicted it as many places as I wanted to. Come tomorrow morning.
And there's one more important thing. And I won't say anything, but I will say that I have seen even people love it tend to criticize the ending and say that they don't like the ending. They think the ending's a cop out. I will say this. I think a lot of it also has to do with what I was just saying about how perfect the Adam Brody scenes are.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ending.
The ending's great.
I love the way they went about it. I love the way it plays with the book's ending, and I especially love that very last moment between Monk and that actor before they, yeah. So I love the ending, but I know a lot of people don't apparently. But what can you do?
So then to lead actress. where we have Annette Bening for Naiad, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Kerry Mulligan for Maestro, Margot Robbie for Barbie, and Emma Stone for Poor Things.
Benning won't go away. It's interesting to see if she gets the spot tomorrow or not. I've been going against Naiad, not because of anything against it. Haven't seen it. But it's been a joke. Haha, Jodie Foster can get in, things like that. And it wasn't anything against the movie. It was just rolling with a bit, like I like to do from time to time, obviously. Still rolling with this. That being said, this lineup seems to be pretty set in stone for a while now. Pun actually intended here. But Gladstone missing BAFTA was a big, like, dagger in the Killers. But I honestly think that it may be its only, like, misstep when it comes to her getting in. If she misses tomorrow, I'm actually going to be somewhat surprised.
The thing that's interesting here is Sandra Hüller missing both.
Yeah, that's concerning.
And the fact that she missed both for the sake of Naiad.
Yeah, that's
is... I don't know how to take that. It makes sense if BAFTA, you know, because I feel like Sandra Hüller's getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I kind of got in early on the she'll get double knotted thing, but then I backtracked it when actress got fucked up, when lead actress got fucked up. So I guess what we're waiting on is to see if this Naiad thing carries over in some way. I mean, I'm not counting on it, and I'm not going for it, but like if Foster and or Benning were to carry over, it would suck because it would be at the expense of somebody probably better. But as good as they are in it, there's just much better choices here. I don't know where this is coming from.
Hey, you know, honestly, I wouldn't be a good friend if I didn't remember things. And obviously, you've been staring at my T Swift shirt for the longest time. When you think about Taylor and you think about the awards season, there was a song a while back called Safe and Sound that didn't really go many places. And there's another pop star that has a song in a Hunger Games movie that needs to be discussed a little bit because I think AJ has some thoughts. So we're not going to be talking about Olivia Rodrigo, but AJ, tell us your thoughts on the Hunger Games.
The Ballad of Songs and Snakes specifically.
Yes. You're welcome.
That was probably one of the sloppier segues we could have used, but
do not care.
We got it.
I mean, I could have just said Coriolanus, but
you liked it. That's all that matters.
I didn't think I was going to come out of the Hunger Games feeling like I feel like I need to talk about this.
In a good way or in a different way, or...
Well, okay, so when it started, I didn't really... First of all, I was really put off by the length. I was like, it's not going to earn this length. And I was also put off by the fact that, what's her name's in it? And it's like, oh, we're doing an origin story for Snow? And it's like, is this going to be some Maleficent bullshit where we humanize him? He gets a love story, and it's like, what the fuck is this shit? This is like, because Snow was such a hardcore villain. Snow being such a good villain is why I still think Mockingjay Part 1 is my favorite of the original movies. Because that's the one where Donald Sutherland really got to shine and be really evil and scary. And then this comes along, and it's like, I don't even know what the hell this really is. I just know the main character is a young Snow, and apparently it's a love story. And it's like, oh, we'll see what this bullshit is, I guess. And so the games happen. First of all, it was kind of interesting because the games are indoors, which is new.
What?
Yeah. It's in like a
Yeah,
little
the Hunger
arena.
Games is in sort of like the equivalent of the O2 Arena or the Superdome.
And I loved Jason Schwartzman playing the Flickerman before Stanley Tucci. And then the movie was happening, and then the games end. The games come to a conclusion, and it's like, oh, well, that was interestingly paced. When the games end, there's like an hour and a half left. And it's like, so what's I don't get where this is going. So basically an entirely separate movie happens after the games end. So and they're doing the sort of loves, and I have to keep stressing this because I don't want to be lumped into a certain group. I don't even really know what the Snow White controversy is. I hate Rachel Zegler because she sucks. Because she's because she's a terrible actress. She was terrible in West Side Story. She was terrible. Wasn't she in Shazam too, which she was also terrible in? And that's, like I said, I don't even really know what the Snow White controversy even is. I just don't. I haven't liked her since West Side Story, and she sucks in this too. And I feel like if she didn't suck so hard in this might have been a more appealing movie because I was really growing impatient with the movie for a long time. It's like, why is this fucking thing so long? I'm not invested in any of these characters. I don't know why we're seeing Snow as not a bad guy. And then as it went on and more characters got involved, I still started to not care. But something in the last half hour kind of made me start liking the movie more. And I think a lot of it has to do with, number one, I keep knocking that they weren't portraying Snow as a bad guy right away. Oh fuck, what's the guy's name? The guy that plays young Snow is like really good, and you can hear Donald Sutherland's cadence in him. It's actually really cool. The trouble is it's just a stupid love story. But then as it progresses and he starts killing people, it feels a little abrupt. But I was happy with the fact that by the end of this movie, Snow is a fucking maniac. And I think it was in that last half hour or so where it reached that turning point where it was like, it started to improve my overall feelings of the movie because I was still put off by, I wasn't expecting the games to only be half of the movie. Because if you're expecting the Hunger Games and the Hunger Games and the Hunger Games end an hour in, the pacing is gone. You're like, oh, I'm going to be trapped with this movie forever. That's what it is. But I don't know, something about that last half hour started to improve it, and I started to look at it as a full picture of, we start off with the games, then there's the middle portion where he starts to kind of turn into a villain, and then by the end he's fucking crazy. And we have his whole thing with Peter Dinklage. And I don't know, I suddenly didn't hate the movie. But I can't pinpoint where I changed on that. Because the structure and the pacing are a fucking disaster. So, I don't know, at some point it actually kind of started to work when it was a full picture, I guess. And the way, I actually didn't even mind the way they left Zegler's character ambiguously. It seems like this really glaring hole that should be there, but I don't know, it was kind of like, that's actually kind of interesting to me. That they just literally leave her character's fate unknown was really, yeah. I almost wanted to say ballsy, but that might be too strong of a word. But I don't know if anybody else has opinions on this movie, but I'd kind of love to hear them. Because I'm so confused by my own thoughts on it. Where I was hating it until at the last minute I kind of wasn't. And I So, yeah. I wish I could remember the damn guy that played Snow. What was his name? Tom Blythe. That's it. Yes.
Yeah. From
Also, kind of a waste of Viola Davis. I mean, she's a little unhinged, which is nice, but it just made me miss Elizabeth Banks is incredible, especially in the first two movies. And it just kind of made me miss that a little bit, but yeah. And Dinklage kind of feels like he's zoned out the whole time, but the more it went, the more I was like, that actually kind of makes sense for his character, that he feels completely resigned in this role. So I don't know if that was Dinklage actually making a choice or if he was just not into this, but it actually ended up working in his favor. There was also were you about to say something, Ashley?
I was looking up the Snow White controversy. Basically, Zegler was just doing a lot of criticisms, whatever. Basically saying she didn't think that the original film was any good, and the Prince and the Snow White are so typecast. Which is like, no, they weren't. The film was made in 1937. That sort of thing was okay then. It probably, shouldn't have been, but it was, so. And then, of course, the whole dwarves being CGI and not actually, dwarf people. As if Warwick Davis doesn't have an agency where there's loads that are available.
Yeah, I do remember the controversy where I think Dinklage was talking to Mark Maron, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about how the story of the dwarfs is backwards and stuff like that, and how we should be beyond that and stuff like that. And then that's what made them made the choice to not cast little person actors. And all the little person actors said, "Dude, what the fuck? That's our work." It's like, it's good that you're Peter Dinklage and you're fucking rich off your ass, but we're not.
Yeah.
We need those roles.
And then very much sort of, there's also a lot of people that are not that enamored with Gal Gadot being in it, considering her acting chops has been, for the past couple of years, let's make fun of her saying the line so badly from Death on the Nile.
It does seem like this movie is a lot of self-sabotage.
And Greta Gerwig started to it. But then she's, already in trouble because of the Netflix Narnia stuff as well. I mean, I didn't think it was as bad as the final Hunger Games film, but it did feel weird that something that's called Hunger Games barely has any Hunger Games in it. When you'd have thought the events of the Hunger Games would have led Cornelius to act and change his behavior like he did, which to some extent it sort of did, but at the same time, a lot of it is what happens afterwards and the repercussions of it, rather than, if that's the case, when we do the prequel to Battle Royale, the Japanese film, the actual Battle Royale of prequel, set in feudal Japan, needs to be about 4 seconds, and then it's just like a moody sort of Kurosawa, courtroom drama for 2 hours. That's just...
We had talked about how we basically talked a lot about SAG when we did our Oscar predictions. So it's like we were going to touch on those, and we were also going to kind of bullshit about the movies we'd seen that haven't been talked about yet. Owen,
Hmm.
you want to talk segues? We're talking about Dinklage.
God.
So
Yeah.
I think it was Parsnip that asked us why Bruce Springsteen was at the Globes,
Hey, yep.
and we had to say he did a song for a movie called "She Came to Me."
Yep. Yeah, he did.
Um, Owen's got lots of stories about this movie. I have my thoughts on the movie. Owen had a whole experience seeing this movie.
I did. Absolutely.
I'll say this real quick. I remember seeing a headline where it's like, here's this new movie from Rebecca Miller, who is Mrs. Daniel Day-Lewis. And it's a love triangle where Peter Dinklage is stuck between Marissa Tomei and Anne Hathaway. And that was basically the pitch by the news or whatever. So you think, oh, a love triangle movie with Peter Dinklage, Anne Hathaway, Marissa Tomei. Wonder what this could be. I mean, can't be too much. It can't be anything too weird and out of fucking nowhere and confusing. And what the fuck is this movie? there's that love triangle is like 1/4 of this movie. It's like a quarter of this movie.
That's not the reason to watch the movie.
Yeah, he's also creating an opera about his fling with Marissa Tomei. Marissa Tomei is a self-confessed stalker.
Yep.
There's also a subplot where their maid has a daughter, and they have a son, and their maid's daughter and their son secretly fall in love and plan to get married, but Brian Darcy James, who is the girl's stepdad, takes legal action to try to get this guy arrested for statutory rape because their ages are 16 and 18. And that becomes the plot. The statutory rape thing becomes the plot.
Yes, it does.
What the fuck is this movie? It's like a different movie every 5 minutes, and it gets weirder as it goes.
It kind of sounds like the script was co-written by bloody Ricky Gervais and Mark Forster. The hell?
If I remember correctly, it's all Rebecca Miller. She wrote it single-handedly and directed it. Mrs. Daniel Day-Lewis wrote and directed this movie.
You are correct.
No wonder he's retired.
And lo and behold, Springsteen comes in during the end credits.
Yep.
That's why Bruce Springsteen was at the Globe.
How did that not make it in Worst Picture or Worst Screenplay?
And why the aspect ratio kept changing?
Oh,
what
God,
was that?
Did
about?
it think it was it thought it was blonde, did it?
Dude, as a projectionist, it was messing with my head. Something fierce.
And I could not put together. Like in other movies, you can understand why the aspect ratio changes.
No.
These felt so random. I don't know what the hell this movie is. I'm kind of glad I saw it because I feel like we're kind of falling behind on, like, people really try to force movies that are so outlandish and so weird and stuff like that. And so, like, the stuff that's like so obviously made just to be on, like, how did this get made and stuff like that. But it feels like it's actually rare for these kinds of movies to come along that are so sincere and not trying to be weird, but are accidentally one of the weirdest fucking things I've seen all year. This is the stuff that makes me say, like, how did this happen? How did this movie happen?
Makes me feel I want to be in a stoner comedy directed by Christopher Nolan.
And we're back full circle.
Exactly.
So that's what that is. But yeah, Owen, you had quite an experience with this movie.
Okay. So this movie was a trailer that came up once or twice. I was like, all right, fine, whatever. Um, I'm at the point now that I'm trying to catch the movie that I feel that's going to get nominated for something because I'm tired of being behind. And because I don't stream, I'm already going to be behind anyway. So it is what it is. I do what I can. So this movie came across my field of vision one day, and I was like, all right, fine. I got some time to kill before something else. I don't remember what I watched it with off the top of my head. I could tell you if I had access to my phone, but I don't. I was a little bit later than I'd like to have been, because it was busy at Blaze Pizza, so I wasn't able to get there right on time like I normally do. See, I'm the type of person that will scold you with my eyes if you come in late to a movie. I don't get you. I don't understand why you exist. There's a reason why. You don't come in during the trailers and interrupting my field of vision when I'm trying to watch something and pay attention. With that being said, I'll get off my soapbox now. Thing is, I was a little bit late, so we have this thing called assigned seating that, if you buy a seat to a specific movie, you have a specific seat you sit in.
Nobody
So,
understands this.
Hell
Nobody
no, they
understands.
don't. And you're about to find out why. So here's the thing. So my tablet's aside here. Okay. So basically what happened was this. Ashley disappeared out of nowhere. So the thing is, I get in late, I got my drink, and I sit down on the aisle. Thing about me that I think I've talked about in here before, I don't like I'm okay with being in crowded theaters if it's a theatrical experience I want, but sometimes it's nice to be away from people. So I'm usually in the back. There's a specific seat that is close to the handicap adjacent seats that I sit in normally, away from everyone. There's room for wheelchairs, and there's one for like the companion, and then there's one that's just for anybody. I usually sit there, or I sit in the back left-hand corner, the back right-hand corner. I don't sit in the front. That's stupid. I sit in the middle when it's something that's necessary, like when I first saw Oppenheimer, and I like to sit in the back most of the time. So, because of the circumstances being that for some reason people wanted to see this movie, okay, I was like, all right, fine. I'll sit here and I'll sit a couple steps off the floor. So, I get into the theater, and there are this old couple that are towards the bottom of the seats, and they're in the same row I'm in. I was like, great, wonderful. I hate when people are here. And look, all these seats you could take. Come on, why did you take the one next to me? Forget it, doesn't matter. So I sit down, and immediately I had this person staring a hole into my soul. And she noticeably starts going like that. I know, because we know our own. Thing is, she was mad because I was sitting in my assigned seat. And her husband, who seemed to be wanting to be anywhere but there, we'll get there, was very ashamed at the fact that she took the time to not only mutter to herself extremely loudly, but she's like, why do you sit somewhere else? Why does he sit somewhere else? I was like, well, I'm thinking to myself, I was like, this is my seat. It's where I'm sitting. You sit there, I sit there. I'm not bothering you. I'm not saying anything. I'm just trying to watch this wonderful movie, sing it, and drink my soda. So at one point, she decides she wants to get up and leave. So I'm like, all right, fine. So I move to the side, and she's like, she has problems walking, and I can tell that. And she verbalizes that she has problems walking. So she grabs the side of my seat. I was like, okay, sure, whatever. All right, you're all right. It's okay. I'll scoot to the side. So I'm far away from her, and she mutters as she walks slowly down the steps. She comes back a few minutes later. She's still angry, and she's still muttering to herself, like it's the dude across the way that yells at clouds. Needless to say, we talked about him a while ago. So she sits back down. She's still muttering out loud. I don't even know what the other people in the theater are thinking. There's 5 of us, I think, at this time. Obviously, pretty good for an early showing on a Friday afternoon at Disney Springs. So I'm sitting there, and I'm drinking, I'm watching the movie, and I'm trying to enjoy myself. And she won't stop talking. And then she gets up and leaves to go to leave again. And I scoot to the side. And then she's like, oh, we just move. We just go somewhere else. We just sit somewhere else. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just no-selling her completely. I'm just like, nope, not gonna say a word. Sorry, not gonna do that. So at one point, I sat on the steps so she wouldn't have to walk over me each time just because I was being nice. And she rolls her eyes at this and continues to get louder. No one's telling her to stop, of course. So she might have problems. I don't know. Can't really tell. Don't care at this point. I'm just annoyed. So I'm drinking my Mellow Yellow Zero. I'm trying to watch this movie. I hate Brian Darcy James at this point because at this point I realize how much of a dick he truly is on screen. And the next thing you know, this lady not only gets up again, but she grabs my seat again and she like rolls her eyes at me and she goes down the steps. I think Ashley's asleep. And all of a sudden,
I'm sitting back and just relishing it.
She sits down on the floor seats away from me, away from her husband, mind you. She's still talking to herself. Movie finally ends. That's time I won't ever get back on my life. Henry Rollins has this bit called Airport Hell. If you haven't heard it before, it's about instead of like suing for money, you'd sue for time. And yeah, I'd rather sue for time because I want that time back in my life. I'll never get it back. So I'm leaving the theater and I leave out of the blue like normally. I grab my drink. I walk out calmly, everything. She's like rolling her eyes and she's still muttering to herself and she's still complaining as I'm walking out of the theater. I never once said a word. I wasn't going to say a word. I was like, I'll just let you cook whatever you want to say. It's fine, whatever. I don't care. Anybody that knows me knows I've been hurt by words many times in my life. It wouldn't be the first time, definitely not the last. She does not have that ammo on me. I knew that, so I just let her say what she had to say. And I have a feeling her husband got a huge earful that night and probably had to sleep in a literal doghouse or the couch or both because of me, unbeknownst to myself, because I sat in an actual seat.
It was probably like the last scene of Revolutionary Road when Kathy Bates is just talking and her husband just turns his hearing aid down and smiles.
Yes, that's exactly right. He seemed very embarrassed in the circumstance.
So a couple of things. Number one, that's why I don't go out in public. Secondly, I wonder if it's a Brian Darcy James thing. Because while I didn't have that experience, you'll remember when we saw Spotlight, that was the time where we were in a full auditorium. It has like a whole stadium seating, and then there's the floor. There's two separate places to go.
Yes.
It's the biggest auditorium that theater has.
Correct.
You and I sit where we always sat, which was in the front row of that upper section.
Of course.
Nobody else is in there yet, and this one lone old lady comes in and sits in the seat directly next to me.
Right?
I want to know what Brian Darcy James movies bring out in these older people to where we get the invasion of space going on here. But yeah, there's also a whole tirade to be had about people who don't fucking understand assigned seating. Like everybody says, like, oh, it's this, great thing where, oh, you can skip trailers by showing up a half hour late because it's assigned seating. And it's like 99% of the time, if I show up right as the movie's starting, somebody's in that fucking seat. They just go where they're going to go and they don't give a fuck.
Now,
and it's always somehow happens to be. It happened when I saw Air, when I saw Respect, when I saw Favreau's The Lion King. There's a list of times. And I won't talk to people. I'll go to the handicap seats and hope no handicap people show up. So far it's been lucky. And not to mention people who still don't know times. There's still people to this day where if a movie has more than one auditorium, somebody will come in who's supposed to be in the other auditorium and they'll see the last 20 minutes of a movie. And it just never occurs to them, oh, the movie must have started half an hour early. Oh, this feels like a climax. Oh, the credits are rolling. Something must have gone wrong.
Excuse me, can I go back in there and watch the beginning of my movie? Because I kind of walked in late. No, can't do that.
We're watching it Nolan style. We're watching it Tarantino style. We want the ending first. I don't know. This is why I hide.
I'm just
If
used
you-
to it, I guess. Probably because I don't stream. Because, granted, I will fall asleep in a movie theater, but I'm a lot quicker to fall asleep in this computer chair than I am in a movie theater.
People are, I mean, when you do get that moment, they always talk about where you need to go to a theater to have a shared experience. When it actually goes off without a hitch, that is really magical. But there's fucking weird ass people.
My
There's people
showing
whose
last
existence you
comes to
can't
mind.
explain.
I've had a lot of really great theatrical experiences since moving here, honestly, but I've had some really terrible ones too. Like when I watched the movie We Shall Not Name the first time, when everybody in the world thought it was the greatest thing in the world, and I was just sitting there like, "What the hell's this? Why are you laughing at this? I don't understand."
And when I saw Across the Spider-Verse, where it was like I wasn't as in love with the movie as everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
but it was weird how silent the theater was through like the whole movie. And then when To Be Continued comes up and fucking riots ensue.
Yeah.
It's like I thought I watched Across the Spider-Verse with a totally dead crowd, and then To Be Continued woke them the fuck up.
My Barbie experience was very similar to that too. And my very strange Oppenheimer experience the second time I watched it.
I saw Barbie at the drive-in next to a guy in a big truck who wore his sunglasses and his collar and had dad shorts. You can imagine how he felt about Barbie. His daughters seemed really into it. He was trying to play Mr. Cool to the other dude that was there.
Good God.
Which makes me think he secretly loved it, probably. He just had to be Mr. Alpha Male while another dude was around.
That went so many different ways. I feel it needs to be a Charlie Kaufman script. Dear Lord.
Did we even finish SAG?
No.
Nope. No, we haven't. We need one more category left.
Peter Dinklage ruined it. Damn it. Anyway.
The usual suspects for Best Actor.
Yeah, for lead actor, we have Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Common Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. Screw you, DiCaprio.
I mean, DiCaprio's really, really good in Killers, but he was just never in this.
No. I tried. Didn't work out too well.
I felt that was one of those things where, for some reason, I just felt confident the whole season. It's like, no, I really just don't think he's here. There's too much going on.
And
There's too much. There's too much, but also surprisingly little going on.
we talked myself out of going with De Niro, and then SAG happened. I was like, maybe I made a mistake.
SAG and then BAFTA happened
SAG
for
and
him.
then BAFTA right afterwards. But I would not have had BAFTA anyway, because we would have had to do predictions before BAFTA came out.
I mean, De Niro could be Daniel Bruhl.
Maybe.
I know there's more examples, but Daniel Bruhl's always the first one I go to for they got everything and then missed.
We'll find out in a few hours.
12, but still a few.
12 hours from right now, I will be.
Actually,
I can be getting ready to go live.
Actually, according to my clock, it's actually 12 hours and 12 minutes, which is interesting.
Same here.
So,
Chat.
Yeah, there's a lot to get through.
Yep.
I'm really sorry, guys. I always forget the chat's here sometimes.
Josie says, I always like Christine Baranski. She's in the Gilded Age. Favorite appearance of hers. Is it worrying that my only one that I can think of is when she was randomly in a bloody Skylanders video game? Because I don't think I've seen anything sort of film-wise that she really sort of stands out with. The only thing probably is like the Good Wife and the Good Fight. You know, the
There's
TV stuff.
It's a small part, but I love how wild things are getting when she comes into the birdcage.
Mm-hmm.
And she's Martha May Whovier.
Yeah, she's Martha May.
She's got that going for her.
I'm looking at the class. I'm looking at the cast here. I'm looking for the
I
thing.
thought she was surprising. She surprisingly brought more than was necessary to a Bad Mom's Christmas. She could have just phoned that in, and she didn't.
Yeah, was she? Yeah, she wasn't in the first. Was she in the first one?
I don't think so.
I can't remember.
I don't remember what she does, but she's in another one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies of the 90s. It's going to make a bell go off in AJ's head, I have a feeling. Life with Mikey.
Oh, wow.
Jeff Jarrett versus Masked Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember her in that also, but I love that movie.
I do, actually. Speaking of the birdcage and Nathan Lane.
Bryce says if Oppenheimer wins, you know Casey Affleck won't attend.
Good. We still don't like you for what you did next road season.
Well, I mean, remember, SAG is where Denzel actually beat him.
That is true. That is a fair assessment.
It's a fond memory for some of us.
Also correct.
Josie also says, I love Jason Clarke. I really like the mistaken identity element of American Fiction. I thought of the player too while watching American Fiction. But part of that possibly is to do with the ending.
Yeah.
Josie's heading off. Parsnip says BAFTAs all over the place. Scorsese missed and Yorgos and Gerwig just across the board. Weird upsets. I wouldn't put much merit in what BAFTA does, especially this year.
I'm with you, Parsnip, but it could surprise some people tomorrow that are not paying attention to the race.
Bry goes, when we saw the first image of Disney's live action Snow White, somebody basically the dwarves who let Robert Zemeckis take over. And one other person in a podcast talking about the image showed a clip of the Garbage Pail Kids film describing the dwarves.
I'm very happy I have plausible deniability about this, Brian. I have no idea what you're referring to. I've not seen any thanks at all, thankfully.
And then the interesting bit, because it seems like AJ needs the clarification of who's in and out for the SAG Ensemble listings. So I will go through the numbers and the names and everything. So we have American Fiction, which is being represented by Eric Alexander, Adam Brody, Sterling K. Brown, Keith David, John Ortiz, Issa Rae, Tracy Ellis Ross, Leslie Uggams, and Jeffrey Wright. For Barbie, go ahead.
I would say the only person. Well, a couple of people are missing from American Fiction, like the guy that plays. Oh my God, what's his name? Oh my God, what was the character's name? That's the wedding.
Maynard.
Yeah.
Maynard and Lorraine both didn't get in.
And the guy from Hamilton that plays Van Gogh Jenkins.
Yep.
I'm assuming whoever wins will shout out the missing people. I would hope.
In some cases, probably.
I mean, if it was Oppenheimer, they'd have a lot of people to go through. But
For Barbie, we have Michael Cera, Will Ferrell, America Ferrera, Ryan Gosling, Ariana Greenblatt, Kate McKinnon, Helen Mirren, Rhea Perlman, Issa Rae, and Margot Robbie.
With Simu Liu and Kingsley Ben-Adir surprisingly missing.
Especially Simu Liu.
Yeah, because he's like the rival Ken, basically.
Yeah.
For
Obviously,
color,
whenever we talk about Barbie, obviously shout out to my good friend Ashley, Bionic Barbie.
for color purple, we have Halle Bailey, Fantasia Barrino, John Batiste, Danielle Brooks, Kiara, Carmen Domingo, Anjanou Ellis Taylor, Louis Gossett Jr., Corey Hawkins, Taraji P. Henson, Philika Pearl Mapasi, and her, aka Gabriella Wilson.
Yeah, and just one more time, justice for David Allen Greer.
For Killers of the Flower Moon, we have Tantu Cardinal, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, Eating All the Scenery, Brendan Fraser, Lily Gladstone, John Lithgow, and Jesse Plemons.
Yeah, it seems like a shitload of the Osage people are what's missing here.
Right.
I think everybody else here is kind of.
When you see Fraser's performance in that, it's like, how the hell did he get an Oscar 12 months ago? It's just it's weird, like, that he agreed to it. It feels like he's gone backwards. And then for Oppenheimer, we have Casey Affleck, Emily Blunt, the Branagh, the Damon, the Downey, Josh Hartnett, Rami Malek for some reason, Cillian Murphy, and Florence Pugh.
I mean, to their credit, the two big scenes that Casey Affleck and Malik have are big scenes. But I still have no idea why Jason Clarke wouldn't be here, or Benny Safdie.
David Krumholtz.
Or Matthew Modine.
Oh yeah, Krumholtz isn't here either, yeah.
Yep.
Get rid of Matthew Modine as well.
Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah, because some people I get, like Jack Quaid and them were kind of in the background, more or less.
Yeah, Tom Conti as Einstein. He's pivotal to the whole thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you have people like James Urbaniak who are literally he's just literally walking with Einstein when he comes and gets him.
And of course,
it's like I get when it's like the people that are barely there at all, but some of these omissions are really weird, and I'm assuming are only because of like a SAG rule of some kind.
And don't forget Oscar nominations presented Jack Quaid, and also Gary Oldman.
Yeah. James Remar has a great scene too, and he's not here. And it's just the cast is so overwhelmingly good they could only muster a few. Or otherwise the room would explode.
I mean, the problem is with how many people are in Nolan's film, isn't that pretty much the entire body of SAG? So they're just going to vote for each other. If we're allowed to. I don't know.
It is interesting.
That's where I feel sorry for somebody like Issa Rae. It's like, you're in 2 of the 5. Which one are you voting for?
I was gonna say, it's kind of crazy with how big these casts are. She's like is she the only one that crosses over?
Yes. At least this year. So yeah. And the other thing which I did notice, Bri mentioned earlier, Streisand is getting the SAG Life Achievement Award as well, as part of the ceremony. It looks as if they're possibly going through the route of not having a host again, which is always a risk. Also, Issa Rae was literally possibly announcing the nominations for herself.
Yeah, I watched the announcement, and Kumail actually stopped and said, "Well, you just got nominated twice in 3 seconds." So is that it?
I think it is.
And now we're doing the exclusively Netflix airing, is what Fran Drescher said. So awards fans will have to continue to pay those ridiculous Netflix prices if they want SAG, I guess. I felt like simultaneously streaming on YouTube ended up working fine. It's like, I mean, I know it's a business, so they're all just selling shit, but still, it's like, hey, keep your really fucking expensive Netflix subscriptions, or you won't get SAG, which is usually the most smooth award show of the year, at least to me. I always love SAG's show.
I'm gonna have to find a way to see it. I'm sure someone will float me some sort of a link ski of some kind so I can watch it.
Probably.
I don't have
Unless it
Netflix.
goes for that bad for Netflix that they have to do it again because so many people want to watch it on Netflix, it causes the thing to crash. So it's just like, put it on YouTube.
Fair.
Then again, I don't know how well the Chris Rock feed did. So I don't know how many other live things Netflix have done since. I want to say not that many. Also, I'm now just noticing that Christine Baranski was in a film called Get Bruce, and I'm wondering whether that's a sequel to either Get Carter or Get Smart, or both, or neither.
It's a documentary about Bruce Valanche. I've seen it.
And we also have come full circle again.
So she's been in two. She's been in, well, I guess technically 3 movies that have got, no, 4 movies that have got exclamation marks in. If you also include the other 2 Mamma Mias and Scooby Doo in Where's My Mummy. How is that considered a film release? That's straight to DVD, surely. That's the equivalent of television, damn it.
So is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guilds are
All right.
done because the WGAs don't matter. Probably literally and figuratively with, the eligibility. They should do it so basically nothing's. Are they doing that so best adapted screenplay is going to be Taylor Swift Eras Tour? Because it feels like we're just doing that for the sake of doing it now.
If Margaret doesn't get in now, there's a problem.
Yeah, that would be the most telling / depressing if that was the case. So yes, we will. We are, at least as of we are live, we're less than 12 hours to go now.
Yep.
In fact, we'll probably by this point we'll be in that weird 4-minute break where they have commercials because thanks ABC. And then myself, Owen, and AJ in our video / streams have to bid for time and talk about what's happened, but at the same time not, because then we've got to save that for the ammunition later on in the evening.
It helps when you're by yourself, though.
So yeah, expect that tomorrow. I will be live streaming, live reactions with picture-in-picture sort of deal. Me somewhere in the corner probably. That's me in the spotlight, losing my religion. That really lost me with my train of thought. AJ and Owen will be doing theirs as live as, they'll be recording themselves watching it either live or when it's archived on the YouTube feed, and those will be up in a few hours or whatever. And then we'll be back at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow for the deep dive, I guess.
Yep.
Into how it went and who wins the first of the two prediction games. Although, I think we might have a draw in some shape or form, given how much of ours are sort of four of the same across a lot of things and where it will all rejig and everything. Unless it goes terrible and, two people are like really close and then probably me will be like 15 points behind because I've been cursed. We'll find out. With that, you got loads of other stuff to check out. AJ's movie reviews and versus archives, Owen's Sip and Snacks and Voice of Liberty archives, my gaming and Snack Stash archive, the Popcast Movie Club stuff. Watch me probably say Roger Deakins never wins multiple times by looking at past Oscar Day reactions from us. And probably something to do with Diane motherfucking Warren. Among other things. So yeah, that's plenty for you to check out there. Find me on socials at Ash is my name UK. Find Owen on socials at Sir Owen Disney. Find the Popcast Network stuff at Popcast Network. AJ cannot be found on social media. And just like that woman in Owen Cinema also hates Keith Richards.
That's not. Don't put that out there. I don't.
He probably does. He probably just came in to watch, Crossfire Hurricane, the live concert, and he's like, I'm gonna sit here. Oh, you don't like me sitting here, but it's my assigned seat. Suck it. Maybe that was the person that the woman berated when they got home. Confirm or deny. But with that being said, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. And until tomorrow, boys and girls, go to bed.